we have a list of different phobias, and I know some of them you were like, these are interesting.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about those. Obviously, the first two or three I'm very familiar with. So talk to us a little bit about these.
Well, so there's fear of dogs.
Fear of heights.
Fear of heights is common. The most common is agoraphobia, which we talked a lot about last week, and it's not even on the list, which is interesting, but we will have some call-ins, I know, with people who have struggled with agoraphobia. Fear of heights is common. Fear of flying is probably the third most common phobia I treat. Agoraphobia being the first, social phobia being the second, which is not on the list. Claustrophobia is often linked with fear of flying.
Okay.
Because it's fear of being trapped in a small space.
But you often hear people say, oh, I can't be in an elevator, I'm claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And it's an expression, or is it?
Well, are they in the elevator?
Yeah.
They're in the elevator. So we're going to talk a lot about how the brain manufactures. That's secondary fear, if that makes any sense. I have a fear of elevators, and then I start to think about how I can't stand being in an elevator. So I add fear to fear. But unless people literally avoid elevators, and by the way, there are people who do.
They will
only take escalators. People will travel in an elevator, but somewhat fearfully. They'll have a sort of a physiological arousal until the elevator finally stops on the floor they need to get off on.
I remember when Whoopi Goldberg had a fear of flying, and she wouldn't take a plane anywhere, and she had to, which we're going to talk about, is that exposure therapy of getting out there. It was like she could travel anywhere. She wouldn't go anywhere out of the U.S. if she couldn't get in her car and get there because of the fear of flying.
Well, what about Aretha Franklin? She didn't fly.
She only used her tour bus.
She didn't fly. And you know what? In all the news yesterday, and of course today, there was no mention as to why she didn't fly. But I'm sure she was phobic.
And that's one of the phobias
that
we're talking about.
She wouldn't do overseas concerts because she couldn't fly. Wouldn't fly.